Hello, Muller. Okay, I'm sorry. How are you, Muller?
I'm good. For some reason, I think the music came, at the background. And of course, you have Sham, who is back and taking care of the backstage and supporting Malar, Ashok, and Dr. Vicky. So,
All right.
Sham is making her presence known. So, good evening, Ashok. How are you?
I'm a tad tired, but I am excited for today's show. We are in the month of May, right? And it's all about giving voices this month, right? So I'm very excited to hear from our upcoming guests. And for all of our friends, fans who have logged into our show, Leadership in Flow Asia, what is this show about? This show, we talk about growth, personal growth, leadership growth, and business growth. And we hear from leaders across Asia where they share with us their insights, their ideas, their reflections, and the things that they've been doing differently to grow as a person, as a leader, as a human, and for the business. So yes, thank you and welcome to our show. This month again is about giving voices, and today we have about humanizing services with AI, spoken by a doctor, Dr. Vicknesh Krishnan. And who is he, Muller? Tell us.
Before I introduce Dr. Vicky, I have to say I like it when you're tired.
Oh, really? Oh.
Because you're very different, but we need to take that take this up later. So who's Dr. Vicknesh, or rather we call him Dr. Vicky, right? Dr. Vicknesh Krishnan. Now he has a very interesting part, but can you imagine he was actually with the government in Malaysia for years, and then he left, right? So in terms of, he was the principal assistant director with National Health Financing, right? Quite a cool place to be, in the government. So we're going to find out why he left the government. We needed his services, but he obviously left. And he's done his MBA with Cardiff Metropolitan University, and
MBA.
yes, and he went on further to be certified in Southeast Asia Healthcare Leadership by Harvard Medical School, and he's currently pursuing his Global Master of Public Health with Imperial College London. He has also mentored healthcare startups under the Selangor State Government's Accelerator Program. Now, so just reading just a little bit about him, you know that he's very, very passionate about service and healthcare. And that's why I think we've invited him, because we want to understand his business and how they've actually used AI to transform the business. And I'm sure you have loads of questions and people are waiting to meet Dr. Vicky. So let's bring Dr. Vicky up.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, and let's give him the limelight that he deserves.
Good evening, Malar. Good evening, Ashok.
Thank you. Hello, Dr. Vicky.
Yes.
Okay, tell you what, before Muller, you threw the first question, because Muller was talking about your MBA and all the studies you've been doing. I just want to confirm, you are also a medical doctor, right? That's your doctor from the medical side, right? Yeah. Okay, good. Because you missed out that part, so I just wonder whether you had a PhD also.
No.
So you're a medical doctor, right? So that's an MBBS, right?
Yes.
Okay, the funny thing is, in Singapore, once a nurse came up to me and said, do you know what MBBS stands for? Then I was like, what's that? This is a Singapore humor. Mouth big, brain small. But I don't think that is what you are, because when I've spoken with you, you've got a great many ideas. And I think all our audience are waiting to hear. Yes, Mother, what's your first question for him?
No, I'm trying to get another abbreviation for another word for MBBS, but never mind. I will correct after we do the question. So, Dr. Vicky, help us understand, right? So you seem to have had an interesting background. So tell us a little bit about what really are you passionate about in the healthcare system. So before we understand a little bit about your business, right? So you seem to be very passionate. You seem to be diving a lot into healthcare and services. Tell us a little bit about your background as to why you love what you do.
I think for every medical practitioner, I mean, this is going to be a very, very general statement. I think it's all about the care that you want to deliver and what's out there that you want to do for the patients who come to you. I mean, that's the ultimate goal. But personally, what I really want, or what I'm really passionate about, is a couple of things. Number one is access to healthcare, right? Despite the fact that we are very privileged in Malaysia in many ways to get the right access, whether it's public or private services, but there's a lot of still underserved communities, or rather people who have not much of a health literacy to understand what they need. And somehow or other, they get marginalized unconsciously because they are just not right out there. So that's one of my passions, to get more access, whether it's services or drugs or care. And what I tied that up with is to see the entire governance structure of healthcare. It was very manual, it was very people driven. And now with technology, with digital transformation, so how can we leverage on that to enhance the governance so that you create better access? So I've linked all these three, from the traditional methods to the current technology, and that's where my passion lies. So it's a triangle to ensure that you use technology to get to where you want to go and serve everyone equally. It's a big dream. It's a far-fetched dream, I would say. It's still work in progress in many countries, but someone has to start. I mean, a lot of people are doing that, and I just want to be a part of that whole initial effort. Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
I just a quick comment before the next question comes out. I don't think it's a far-fetched dream, but I'm glad that it's still a dream, because it can happen. It can happen.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Oh,
what
oh,
are you doing? Sorry, Mother.
It's okay. Go. Thanks.
Yeah. So that's your passion about giving access to healthcare, whether it's services or drugs and all that, right? I think that's a wonderful thing. And you are also looking at how to leverage technology. But before we get into that, perhaps you could help our audience understand, right, what business you're in today and the purpose of your business.
Okay, so I work with Fresenius Medical Care.
Okay.
It's a German-based company to begin with.
Mhm.
It's we are one of the world's largest providers of products and services, particularly for individuals with renal diseases, kidney problems.
Sure. Okay. I think he has frozen a bit. Hopefully things are okay. So as you were sharing, right, for the audience, right, Dr. Vicky, if you can hear us, you're frozen and your volume has gone off. You could just click in and come back again. But in the meantime, what Dr. Vicky was sharing is he's with Fresenius Medical Care. Fresenius Medical Care is a German company. It's been around for more than almost 100 over years. They specialize currently in renal care. For the longest time, they've been focusing on how to build very good dialysis machines, and that has been their focus of their work. And Dr. Vicky is part of that organization that specializes in renal care, right? So that's Fresenius Medical Care. Is how far away is he? We're not too sure. All right. So he will be logging in very shortly. All right. So Muller is very interesting, because what Dr. Vicky is talking about is medical care is actually very, very important for everyone. Yep. And having access to it is also important, because in a place, I think geography plays a very important part. In a place like Singapore, probably is a bit more easier, I suspect, because it's a bit more smaller and the connectivity is easier in that sense. Whereas in a place like Malaysia, I suspect it's going to be wider because of the geography, the land, and the connectivity. Yes, Dr. Vicky, I was just explaining about Fresenius Medical Care to our
Yeah.
audience.
Sorry, my line just dropped. Yeah. So
It's okay, it happens.
yeah. So I work with this company for the last coming to 4 years now,
Nice.
and I would just summarize the entire purpose of the company, and that's what
Sure.
we all hold truly to our heart. We always quote that it's all about creating a future worth living for patients worldwide every day. That's what we hold strong to, and that's exactly what we do. That's our purpose, to ensure that we give quality healthcare for those with kidney diseases, and it's not a very easy disease to handle. It's a lifelong thing that you're going to be dependent on dialysis and other interventions that you need. But we just want to ensure that we give you quality, we give you comfort, and it's something that you can promise that they can have confidence to hold on as long as they can hold on. Yeah. So that's what we do, and that's what we continue doing till today.
Nice. So your organization focuses on renal care. Yeah. And it is something very important. I'm sure I'm not too sure what is the statistics like in Malaysia, but what are the numbers? Is it increasing in terms of renal care?
Yes, because we have more and more patients becoming or succumbing to renal diseases, and I think the government has projected by 2030, I think our funds are going to be exhausted. The government funds are going to be exhausted because over 1,000 patients are going to be within the framework of different stages of kidney disease.
Sure.
So, yeah, so it is a burden. It's a lifestyle disease, minus those who genetically succumb to some of this, but majority is lifestyle. So it's a huge burden that we're talking about.
Sure. And I suspect COVID also played a part in it, in accelerating diabetes, which can also lead to kidney disease and all of that. So with this problem that is looming in the future, right? How has technology helped your clients or patients? Do you call them patients or clients?
Well, yeah, we have two clients, I would say. I mean, if we really divide the business to see where we serve, of course, primarily our clients are our patients.
Okay.
And we also have clients who are hospitals or medical centers who actually leverage on the technology and the product. Eventually, of course, the final clients are the patients. So in general, I think I'll look at it in two ways. I mean, if you're looking at providers, those who want to provide this kind of services, then our technology we have been in this industry for the last 3 decades of experience in R&D. And over the years, I think things have developed, especially when we call blood filtration. This is all about blood filtration for dialysis. So I think it has evolved, new ways of doing it, more efficient ways of doing it, using the right filters, the best technology. So this has actually helped a lot of these providers to see good outcomes with the patients, better ways of, for example, clearing toxins out of your blood for these dialysis patients. So in general, that has made them feel more confident. They can get more sustainable results. And of course, the biggest burden is mortality and hospitalization. So when you see technology that is helping them to reduce these numbers, then of course the providers are happy because it's working, over the years. Now, when it comes to patients, I think it's all about how we have made things easier with this technology. I mean, a lot of things were very manual. You walk into a clinic, for example, if I were to say, you walk into a clinic, everything is manually recorded for you. You either give a patient a little book to carry on with prescriptions that has to be reviewed every time the patient comes in. All that is gone now. It's all a little electronic card. Patient walks into the clinic, taps into the machine. Everything is recorded, updated, real time. No one has to bother about what the patient was being prescribed last week or even the day before. Everything is recorded. The patient just has to walk to the chair, sit down, the nurse starts the program. So technology has enabled a lot of these unwanted process and procedures to be in doubt. It's just we have exact data of what you need. We prescribe, customize it to you. You just come to the clinic, you sit on the chair, you get dialyzed, you go back home. So this has evolved over the years, and I think it has also brought down the burden of patients, anxiousness, fear, confusions, missing out papers and things. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks for sharing that. And just to give some context to our listeners and all, I just want to talk about two things. One is about Fresenius, and the other one is the experience from the patient itself. So we can go into the third question from here, right? Maybe you want to share with the audience, because I know Fresenius, they've been very focused on the dialysis machines. And a few years ago, they said, you know what? Since we're already experts in this, can we look at a new business growth? And we decided to go on patient care, right? So it's taking your expertise and moving there, and adding value in that sense. And that's a whole new business opportunity there. So that's one thing that you did. Now, from a patient's point of view, from my experience, if there's no technology, what they do is everything is paper and pencil, and they have to do by guessing. You got to figure out, because you're sitting on a chair for 4 to 5 hours on a 3 times a week, perhaps, depending on the severity. And they've got to calculate how much of water they have to take within the week, or from between the dialysis, how many liters of water they got to drink. And therefore, then they got to tell the nurse how much of, what you would call it, blood they got to take out, how many liters of blood they got to take out. So everything is in memory form. But what you've done is you have enabled it through technology, and which is something very important, right? Very, very important in helping the business and the patients. And yes, as much as talked about it, right? What were the challenges you faced, right, in getting this technology adopted? So you can divide this question into 2 parts. One is, let's talk about from your staff point of view, and then tell us about the challenges from the patient's point of view.
Okay. When it comes to staff, exactly as what you said, I mean, they were very accustomed to, or rather comfortable with the way they were working, right? Everything was manual. Recording, taking results, and so on and so forth. And again, I'm not trying to sound negative here, but I think it also very much relates to the education system here, where they were trained only to be fixed with that way of working. So when you introduce technology, especially to our staffs, of course, the resistance was, you're getting me out of my comfort zone. I don't know this. I need a lot of training. I don't have time. I have stress. I have less manpower. All these things set in. But then if we were to buy into that, then the ultimate setback would be you're compromising patient care, because we want to make it a seamless link between technology and the care. So we started to introduce slowly. I think this was done way much before even I joined the company. So I think there was phases where the systems were put in place to show that, look, this is going to make your life easy. In terms of recording, like you said, everything is there. It's personalized. You don't have to remember off your hand. You don't have to flip through 10 pages to look into a result. Now, when I came on board, what I was tasked to do was getting the technology to the next level, where the system was being incorporated into all the clinics, which is AI enabled, where your machine speaks to a main server, which is the big system, and everything is just relayed real time. So when the patient sits on the machine, everything is automatically recorded into the main system, and the nurse just has to see it and she gets an idea of what's going on. Now, getting this system into place in every clinic was a challenge, because they were like, okay, you're bringing in something new again. I need to learn. And so we thought, okay, let's not burden, for example, 10 nurses in one clinic. Let's teach one person first. Make that person train another, and then slowly take it on. So that took a little bit of time because the resistance was there. And of course, sometimes the interoperability comes into question, whether this will work with that and that will work with this. So we had to soften that down because our IT experts say that, look, we created the system, so interoperability is not an issue because the system speaks to the machine and vice versa. So that took me at least, I would say, to establish in all the 12 clinics, it took me at least safely a 1 year to just make sure that the system was in place, people were comfortable, refresher trainings were done, and they learned to accept that this is the new way of working. So it wasn't easy. 12 months, a lot of struggles, lots of ups and down feedbacks. But now I'm very happy to say that every clinic that we are running for the last 1.5 years, perfectly smooth with the technology now.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Thanks. Ashok, before you ask the next question, I'm curious about some things that I want to hear from Vicky, right? So Vicky, we often, right, in any service oriented businesses, right, we often bring in technology, right, and we say, when technology comes in, things becomes more efficient, more effective, so that we can pay attention to the service bit, which is why we started the business. And in patient care, we know there are so many procedures to follow. There's a lot of data that's involved, right? And typically, the typical complaint is there's no time for patient care. Now, you seem to have solved the problem with technology, right? But very often, what I see is that sometimes we get there first. That means we take away the so-called work away through by with technology. And then instead of, when we save the time, we say that we want to spend time with patient care, but we end up maybe taking in more patients, right?
Mhm.
And not spend the time or in terms of business, and not actually spend time in patient care. So how do you balance to ensure that we are still focused on patient care? What do you do differently, or is there something that you all do so that you know that the time that we have is actually used for patient care?
Okay, so that's a very good question, actually. That was one of the biggest challenges I had. Because putting technology doesn't solve everything. Like we think that, okay, it's going to make life easy, it's going to cut short a lot of time and then the people can care. But there's a pro and cons to that. I think the biggest challenge was when you give them something easy, sometimes it's not utilized fully, right? So there can be people who are just taking it lightly, delaying in utilizing the technology to update data, for example, because they're like, okay, I can do that later. I can go do my patient care first. And the whole point of technology being there to ensure quality gets shaken up. So we face this challenge as well. So we had to make sure that we balance both. The technology has to be used, fully utilized, so that that will spell out your actions after that to ensure there's quality. So we tackle that. Of course, a lot of training, a lot of, I would say, a lot of top-down approach to make them value why we are doing that, why technology is there. And the main key point here is we want to cut short your paperwork. We don't want you to sit down and do clerical jobs. This was one of the biggest complaints they had. I'm writing too much of papers. I've got tons of papers to fill. So we only tackle that. I said, okay, I reduce this paperwork, but promise me that you're going to do this filing into the computer, which is going to take you 5 minutes. So we trained all the nurses to get adapted to it, which worked. Now, to your question, how does the patient care go on? So again, there's two sides to it. There's one is the patient care, one is the business. So the business wants more patient to come in. Inevitable, we can't stop that. So now what I did was, again, there was a little gap in how the head nurses, you see, every clinic has a head nurse. So she's the leader. So there was a sort of a fear or a lack of confidence for them to be a leader, to say that I have a voice, I'm empowered to make this decision, I can delegate, and I can manage incoming patients, and I can delegate someone to look at the quality of care that we're delivering. And when we heard this often, then we realized, okay, we got to do something, we got to change the approach. How do we do that? We're going to compartmentalize them into cubicles, as we call. right? So we started something called cubicle nursing. So we ensured a couple of people in one cubic will be responsible, or rather, one nurse will be responsible for a couple of patients there. And the whole idea is this nurse has to know in and out of this patient, not only the condition of the disease, but what happens with their families as well, as in family support, moral support, psychological support, food intake, and any other family problems that they have. Because we don't only look at clinical care, we also look at the emotional support. We refer to the right people there. Again, there was resistance to it, but then when we realized, when people started picking up, we saw quality improving. We saw the way the nurses started reporting to me on what they do and what they monitor became better. And at this point, I would say at this year now, I'm impressed with what they do. It took them time, it took them lots and lots of training, lots of courage to even speak up, because they have always been taught that I'm a nurse, I can be a head nurse, but I have a limit to speak up. Then I said, no, you're frontliners, you're clinically visualizing the patient, you tell us what needs to be done, and then we can make a informed clinical decision, with a nephrologist or with whoever that is. Again, this took over some time, and now I'm very proud to say that these nurses are on top of everything. They know exactly how to balance tasks with the system, data, and patient care. Yeah.
Right. Thanks. Thank you. I mean, I like the way you transition with the challenges that they were experiencing or the conflict, and then empowering them with that. Because just before that, what one of those things that you said, that typically with any major change, there's a pushback,
Yeah.
non-acceptance, and you took us through how you made the trade with them, right? In your experience in the conversation, I'm picking up some things that I just want to confirm. What do you think was the point of acceptance for the nurses who were directly involved in the patient care, right? What was their greatest motivating factor for them to say, I'm going to hack the system, I'm going to take on the empowerment, I'm going to hack the technology, because I'm now interested in focusing on giving quality healthcare, right, or patient care. What do you think motivates them?
Okay. I think it's how you approach them. You
Mm-hmm.
know, of course, from my position, I've got to see the objectives of the organization, right? And then the message I convey to them has to be in relation to that. But there is a way to convey to them. You can either be a boss, you can either be a leader, but it's just very rigid things, or you can be someone who's leading, but be a friend. Yeah, be a friend. You have to relate to why are they feeling that resistance, why are they finding it so difficult. And I come from a hospital background, so I've worked with nurses, so I always relay my experience. I said, look, this is how it happens at the hospital. I know what your complaints are, I know what your arguments are, I know what your struggles are, but let's look at it this way. I'm not forcing you, I'm telling you that you are a leader of your clinic. You have the rights to tell me, instead of me telling you, that what needs to be done in your own individual clinic for the benefit of your patients. So when I twisted the entire angle to that way, to say that you have authority to decide what you need to decide, and we'll discuss about it. I'm not going to shut you off, but you're open to talk to me about it. Let's discuss and see where we can go. Again, this was not very easily adapted, because some were thinking that, this guy is just talking, it's never going to work. Some were scared to take the first move. But I kept repeating every month on the calls that we have. I keep saying the same thing. Even till today, I tell them, you are leaders, you make the decision. I think they're tired of hearing that from me. I think it's just too cliche already for them. But that has helped them to take the thing to say that, okay, this guy is in the management level, but he doesn't impose that on me, but he wants me to take ownership. That switched the entire culture. That totally changed the way they think. And they started talking to their other junior nurses. And I see changes. I really see changes now, that they want to take ownership. They want to be responsible for the patient that they have been tasked to take care of. And that has been seen in the reports, in the number of mortalities that we have every month now. It's declining because they are paying more attention. And even if a patient passes away due to just, the body is just giving up, but for me to know that what steps they have taken is impressive, which was not existence 3 years ago.
Nice.
So now I don't question them so much. I'm like, you have done your job, I've got nothing much to ask. But
Nice.
it took time. Yeah, it took
Yeah.
time. It really took time. Yeah.
Yeah, because what I heard you saying was that I think you put their heart where it actually belongs, right? Which is patient service. Because very often, with people who are in healthcare, the pain is very much not being able to show enough care because you're so caught up, with all the other processes that takes over and which can be overwhelming. So I thought I heard you making the trade. So I wanted to know whether that was the bait that they get to do what they love to do, why they became nurses in the first place is what I was trying to confirm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, and so it's this is really because we are in this program Leadership in Flow. I think in Leadership in Flow or in leadership as leaders, what we're trying to do is that we're trying to figure out what engages people, what gives them the why, what makes them wake up in the morning and say, I want to give my best shot, right? Because sometimes, we start off well and we lose it along the way, and we've heard a lot of these horror stories in healthcare. So thanks for that. And I also love the bit that you empathize with them, so that helps them to feel really understood, being
Yeah.
heard. Just not what they're experiencing, but putting back the passion where it belongs, right? I love that. And how you continue to empower them for them to see and experience the success. And now, from what you're telling me, it sounds to me like they've taken ownership. So there's a lot that you've given in the way that you're leading, about when we talk about managing change. Now, as I say that, and before I pass it on to Ashok, because Ashok is staring at me with the questions, I'm just going to say hello to Dr. Nirmala. Hi, Nim. Thanks for joining us. And Vanan. Hi, Vanan. Good to see you. And Vanan has a question. Vanan runs a podcast in Singapore, and he has a question for you. He says, AI technology versus human touch, could we depend on it? So I think this might be your favorite question that you've been waiting for, right, Dr. Vicky?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting question. I think this is very much debated about. I think a couple of days ago, so I read an article where they were debating whether AI is just going to take over things. Now, of course, all of you have heard about it. A lot of views come about saying that yes, AI is going to take over a lot of tasks. But in healthcare, I personally believe it is not going to totally take over things, because medicine is about human touch. Yep. You can diagnose, you can find the most hidden tumor with the advanced AI technologies in the world now. But for someone to touch, for example, let's say you have a swelling here, to touch, to feel, to give comfort to the patient, AI can't do that, right? And if you go tell a patient, a doctor, I have got huge stomach problem, the first thing as a doctor, what we do is we try to palpate the stomach. Your abdomen, is it hard? Is it soft? What we hear. AI can't do that. But what AI can do is assist us in finding a more precise diagnosis or a more precise, conclusive decision based on the symptoms, based on the blood findings, and based on the scannings. So it can give you a more precise treatment plan, but it cannot replace that touch, that comfort, the confidence you can give a patient. So this is what I strongly believe in. And I think a lot of people who are still debating about this, who are still 50-50 here and there. But again, I don't think it can 100% replace humans in healthcare, at least. The human touch has to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that gives us hope. While it gives us hope, I think for me, the bit that I struggle with is how do we ensure, while we're giving human touch, to really keep our competency levels, where it should belong, when a lot of the simpler tasks sometimes, which actually forms our foundational skills and knowledge, might be lost along the way, which then brings up to what Vanan says. And I promise you, Ashok, you can ask a question after this. Vanan says, we have already evolved in AI technology. It's helpful yet over empowering, right? I don't know. Is that something you want to address?
Yeah, well, I won't totally disagree to that. Again, every technology has both sides to it, right? It has the bright side, it has the dark side. Like Jeffrey from Google, when he left, he was saying, I mean, the man behind AI, I mean, there are threats. The entire field of AI is still not truly legislated as well as we speak, right? There's no proper legislation behind it. And also, a lot of people misuse AI because it's just so overwhelming. It's so easy. It's so exciting that you tend to use that to forget the basics, as you said. Now, as you can see, a lot of new generation people, again, no offense to anyone in that field who's listening here, but it's sad when they say that, look, after this period of education, I'm just going to go into this technology, use that to build my career up. So they're just leveraging on that without building that, for example, the soft skills or technical skills that normally what we would have done maybe 20 years ago. So yes, it is over empowering at times. It's hard to control, just like every other technology that's out there. It's very hard to control. It's a fear. It's a big fear that everyone has in this field now. But we just hope that probably with the right legislative measures, the right control, which is not going to be easy to come by, but I hope something is there as a framework to at least reduce that impact from it deviating to the dark side. Yeah, like, I mean, a simple thing like ChatGPT, the more advanced version is so fearful that they have asked, I mean, even 4 or 5 big guns have asked the projects to stop, to be put on hold, because it is so lethal that it may just destroy instead of bringing benefits. So I think we can argue about this till dawn, but we're not going to get any answer, at least now. But I truly believe that with some legislation and some framework, at least we can try to control it, just like what we did with many other technologies that evolved over the years.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's not the technology, but who's holding the power to the
Yes.
technology is what matters. Just like any other tools, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you. I just love the context that you gave, and Vanan is happy with what you've said. Okay, Ashok.
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you to Gerald Fernandez, who have logged in and said hi to us, and also to Nimala, who says hi there. Thanks for this, very interesting. And there was a question earlier by Sherry, right? She did ask a question, which is, who owns that information? I think she was referring to the earlier segment when you talked about the data that is collected.
Right. Okay. So when that's a good question. Thank you for that. Now, so from the perspective of the company, right? Because these patients that we have are our patients, so their data is very protected and we own it. It's only within our secured server. We don't share it to anybody else, except if the government, if the Ministry of Health or the regulatory bodies, they want something due to a mishap happening or patient who dies out of some weird condition, then legally we are bound to share that with the authorities. Otherwise, we don't share that to anybody. It's only kept within our system. And these servers are very protected that, for example, I have access to only the patients within Malaysia, right? But the server is connected globally, but I can't access any other patient's data anywhere else. So even within the company, we have firewalls, we have limitations of what we can see and what we can't see. So that's very much protected. Now, on top of that, so what we did was we created an app for the patients, to empower the patients, because we decided that conversation should be both ways. It's not the doctor tells you, hey, you take 2 pills, I go home, I take the 2 pills. That's the traditional way of working. Now, we want to know that if we tell a patient, you take 2 pills, I want you to ask back, why 2? what are these 2 pills for? What will they do? What are my side effects? And how long do I have to take it? And what happens if I stop? We want this kind of conversation. So the R&D team thought lots about it. The medical team came together. We decided, okay, let's empower the patients by giving the data to them. So you get to see your own blood parameters, how you're doing for the last, let's say, 1 month. And whatever we are giving you, whatever prescription that we are doing, we are not going to hide it from you. It's all visible for you in your app. So we started this initiative, and I brought in this app as a pilot project last year, and now we have got all our patients on board with this app. And now what I'm trying to do is create a habit where every day when they walk into the clinic, they on the app, they see what is going on. Now, again, the data in this app is transferred only from the main server, which is protected, to the app, and only the patient can see it because they've got a special code that they go in to register to see it. So even if I download the app, I can't go inside because I am not a patient, I am not given a code, and I will not be given a code. I only have access to the main server where I can see what is happening to their progress. So we ensure that all these are very protected. We get their consents. They sign first before anything is given or taken from them.
Nice.
So, and of course, we follow the government regulations. We follow EU, US state regulations as well to make sure that data privacy is well protected. Yeah.
Right. Thank you for that. Thank you very much. Dr. Vicky, you know what? I'm hearing a constant theme from you. You are pushing the boundaries, or you are really pushing everyone to have the conversations, whether it's via the app with the patients, and especially with your team leaders, your nurses, right?
Yep.
But you keep telling them, you are the leader, you have to make the decision, you've got to tell me. You keep pushing the boundary in that sense. I want to know why, as a leader, what is your belief that is driving to push this behavior?
Well, again, I'm not going to offend anyone with that. Leadership has been spoken in different contexts and different stages. I've read, I've been in trainings of various forms of leadership. So when I try to relate that into practice, especially doing what I am doing, I've got close to 100 nurses in different demographics of the country. And every demographic or the patient characteristics in each clinic, each region is different. It's in the city is different, the suburbs are different, and the way you talk to them, the way you deal with them requires different set of leadership skills. Now, if I'm sitting in the management side, I'm looking holistically, okay, this is what leadership is all about. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to spread across to all my 12 clinics in different demographics and say, okay, you have 10 points. I want you to follow this because as a leader, I want you to do that. It will be a disaster. It will totally be a disaster because it's not going to resonate with, for example, I've got clinics up in Parit Buntar, for example. Yeah, that's like a small city up north. And most of them are very old retirees. You need to talk to them in a different way compared to talking to a slightly younger population in the city center in KL.
Okay.
Right? So when I realized that, then I said that, okay, this is not going to work. I need to go down to each and every clinic, talk to the nurse there, see the demographics and see what is the challenge and how would they want to relate leading in that center. It can't be a generic program. So when I heard their hues and cries, when I heard the challenges, I tell them, look, you are the leader. You decide exactly what your clinic needs. The workflow, how you manage difficult patients, what are the issues you have, and how do you want me to take these issues to the higher management? After the first 1.5 years, when I spoke this, when we had a team meeting, jokes aside, they were overwhelmed because they said that we never had anyone coming and telling us that do this your way, but we are open to discuss. It was always top down, top down, top down. Doesn't work.
I get that, and I love that you're giving the autonomy, but I want to understand what drives you to give them that autonomy? What's your belief? What's your motivation behind that?
Because I came from different sectors, right? I came from the government, then I went into a lot of corporate organizations. And my previous bosses allowed me that freedom, right? They allowed me that freedom. And of course, not all. There were some who were very top down. There were some who really allowed me the freedom. And when I saw that, I saw how I grew. I saw how I built relationships. And it was a learning process. When I come up with a theory, when I come up with a decision, it is not looked down upon, but it's advised, okay, let's tweak it this way. Let's do it this way. No one says that, oh no, you're wrong, I'm the boss, you do it this way. So when I turn that, if it can make me happy, if it can make me grow, if it can motivate me to know that, look, I've done 20% tomorrow, I want to do 50%, it is going to be the same for nurses who work way harder managing dialysis patients, which is, trust me, it's not easy at all.
Right.
So, and I've got nurses crying because then I felt that, okay, they are in pain. And if I'm going to do this to them, I'm not going to be sleeping peacefully.
Sure.
And the burden is on me because I make the final decision. Why do I kill myself, put them into trouble? At the end of the day, the patients are going to suffer. So that's when I switched. I said, I'll be a leader, but I'll be your friend. I'm here to listen. But there are boundaries because I'm still stuck to the organizational goals. But I will try my best to work around it so that I can give you the confidence and we can work together. Yeah, I wanted that synergy. I wanted them to pick up the phone and call me and say, doctor, I have a problem, which happens now. The first year, nobody calls.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they are free to call. And I like it because they are more open to talk.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is fantastic because of your personal experience of how you were given autonomy. You enjoyed it. You enjoy the growth, and you wanted to ensure that your team also experienced the same. Right. And I think you also mentioned that it was, I suspect you made mistakes, but it wasn't more of a slap on the wrist in the sense, but it more of a coaching to make you better.
Yes, it was coaching. And I think I would thank those two people who are still my friends. I still keep in touch with them. I visited them as well. Nice. I still see them as coaches. I still see them as my mentors because they put me where I am now. Yeah.
Right. So this is both the doctor in you speaking and the business leader in you speaking. So you're marrying both together.
Yeah, it's both. Yeah.
Fantastic. Something you mentioned earlier, which to me was a real wow, because the impact to the patient. For example, when you said you talked about cubicle nursing in that sense, right? And then you focus on the patient. But the patient that you really focus on was not just about the patient and the condition and the diet, but you also look at the social aspect, the social surrounding, the family support. What was your motivation behind that? What was driving you with that decision?
A couple of things. Now, the primary thing that actually made me upset is when a patient passed away. And when we realized, we were wondering what really happened to this patient. Clinically, yes. And then I got to know the patient was depressed. And we didn't know about this. And that wasn't very comfortable for me. I'm like, okay, how come we missed this? Was the patient under a psychology follow-up that we did not know about? And so I told the nurse, let's dig further. Because I really want to know the background. Was it depression-induced death that succumbed the entire body, that he just gave up, or it was something more that we don't know? And to my biggest horror, it was negligence of the family, the patient being sidelined, living alone, having depression, on medication and non-compliant to medication. And that depression led that patient to stop coming to dialysis because they were depressed. So they just sat at home. 1 week, the body just failed. Now that was a big alarm. I said, no, this should not happen. Yeah, we are not doing all the services in our clinic, but I can still link up to the hospital. find out if there's a follow-up, call my fellow doctors who are working in the clinic to ask to follow up with a referral. We could have done something, but we didn't. That's when I decided, I said, no, every patient who walks in, everyone who comes with a family, we have a conversation with them. We find out what's going on, and then we can tackle it. Of course, we won't be able to tackle everything. We still have issues where families are like too busy to drive the patient to the clinics, so they miss 1 or 2 treatments. But we make sure that we call the clinics, call the family, we tell them the consequences, right? So we started doing this, and now we can see little by little, the family is getting involved. The family is actually having a conversation with us. Not much, but it's starting. So now I tell the nurses, like, you see, if you have started it, you induce a little, well, I would say it's a fear. It's a fear of concern about, look, if you're not going to pay attention to your mother or father, your uncle, if something happens, then you're going to feel bad about it. So let's talk. Let's see how we can work around your work timing. Let's see whether we can arrange the transport. Can we adjust timing? You know, if you're not free in the mornings, can you send your parents in the afternoon where you have time for lunch? So we do this so that the nurses can schedule the patients accordingly, and transports are made available to what we can, you know, with our capacity. Now, I would also like to take this opportunity to be very proud that I've got a couple of nurses in the northern side of Malaysia, where some of the clinics are. They wake up at 5:30, 6 o'clock. They go to the patient's house, which is on the way, pick the patient, go to the clinic, dialyze, and drop the patients back. Some nurses do this. And I applaud these people. They are a couple of my head nurses and primary nurses, and till today I salute to them, because I didn't ask them to do this. I didn't give them any indication to do this. I just said that I want you to ensure this patient comes and there's enough support. So whoever's living alone, they do this. So I'm trying to create an ecosystem that the patient is just not one person, but you're talking about a family, you're talking about a community. Not easy. There's a lot of resistance from families. There are a lot of people who don't want to be a part of this. And, you know, they are just sent and said, look, my job is to just send the parents or someone home, and then that's about it. It's still a struggle, but we have come far from where we started, from not being engaging at all. Now we are talking a little bit more to families. Yeah. So that was what triggered me, because I don't want to miss out something and feel bad about it. It's not that I can prevent everything, but to keep me in the know, to know that I've tried and failed, it's different than not knowing and to know that you've failed.
Wow. Yes. Dr. Vicky has gone dark. I hope I can hear you. Okay, he's around. He's out and back. But, you know, Dr. Vicky, what you just mentioned, to me is very moving. I thank you for sharing that story, because it took a depth in that sense. But, you know, you're really, when we talk about giving voices, the way I see what you're doing, you're really listening. You're really looking at what are the real problems people are facing, and you're going beyond your basic duties in that sense, if you ask me. I mean, for seniors, you're just providing the dialysis care, but you want to know what else is affecting this, how else can you help this person emotionally, mentally, you know, in different ways, you know. And you say you're trying to build that whole ecosystem, and I think that is a great thing that you're doing. You know, it's not easy. I do recognize that, because I guess some of the family members are also struggling, whether it's financially or whether it's time, or without not understanding what is happening.
Exactly.
So how do you then, right, provide education as an empowerment to the ecosystem?
Now, it's two ways. I think we first try to educate the patients first. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the most important thing, because the patient has to understand what's going on with them. Why are they having 3 times dialysis? Why are we asking them to do this? Why are we asking them not to eat that? So now, the traditional way, what we used to do was, okay, let's do medical education, bring everyone together and try to talk. Then I realized that I always want to challenge status quo. That doesn't work. I mean, even if you call me for 10 CMEs, I'm going to get bored. So there's going to be something different that you got to reach out very closely to know that you're teaching me something, but I have the warmth to listen to you. So what we told the nurses is, in your own centers, you have a dialysis session in the morning. Everyone is fresh. You've got 20 patients. Carry a little portable speaker and a mic. Walk among the patients and teach. And this is recorded. We have videoed a few of it to show people what we have done. So you are there with them, amongst them, and you're talking, but you're teaching them. And we realized the participation was fantastic. People started asking questions, and they were more relaxed because they're getting dialyzed, and someone is teaching them what to do, what not to do, instead of saying that, hey, go read this book, 10 points. It's not going to work. So I said, let's change all this. Let's do this way. Personalized care. One portion of personalized care, which I'm very big on. I believe you got to get closer to the patient. So that's what we started first. And then in addition to that, so some of the patients have caretakers because they're very old, 70 plus. So we bring in the caretakers together. Now, the biggest problem was the family, right? The biggest problem is the family. So we realized that sometimes when the families come, some are very, very adaptive to what we say. We tell them, look, over the last 3 months, your father or mother is not improving because they're not doing this right. Please look at this. And they are willing to say that, doctor, can you tell me, or nurse, can you tell me, can you give me a list? What can be done, what can't be done, how much of liquid I have to eat and not. So that is fine. Now, there are groups of people who are just stubborn. They're like, oh, no, we know what to do. This is very difficult because we don't want to impose. We don't want to just go and, just bounce off everything off their heads. We give them time. We sort of like instill fear little by little. We tell them, hey, look, this week, your mom's not doing well. If this keeps going, she's going to get hospitalized with a lung full of water, and that's going to affect the heart. Do you want to take that risk? So when we instill this kind of fear, then they come back to us. They're like, okay, so what's the problem now? Is she missing treatment? Do we need more clearance? What else we need to do? So we are still testing methods. We are still trying what we can do. So we have two groups, the responsive one and the fairly moderately non-responsive one. So it's still a struggle. I won't say I've achieved 100% success in that, but we're still trying. Yeah.
Right. You know what I like? I like the fact that you are constantly challenging status quo, right? You're putting the patient in the center by providing personalized care. You're looking at AI as a way to enhance them, or even your nurses in that sense, empower them. When we talk about education, you even said, no, you're not doing education in the normal way. You're looking at how you can teach them where they want to learn from you. You're looking at the ecosystem. You're looking at the family support. You're looking at everything in totality to be able to drive your results. Thank you for sharing that very much. Yes, Muller.
Yes, Malar. So I felt that I sat through a motivational program with Dr. Vicky. What I really loved about everything that you said, while you're talking about personalized patient care, right, Dr. Vicky, for me, I'm amazed at how much of attention you pay to detail.
Yep.
Right. The small little things that make a difference. And I think, I love your approach about really thinking through why we're not getting the results. Like, the one on education, right? I mean, typically it's your health. So when I give you stuff, it's your job to read, right? Or, families who are not engaged in the system. It's not my problem or my responsibility to actually manage it. So you seem to be very, very focused on the outcome, which is patient care, number one, and their health. And what I'm seeing is that whatever that is movable, that you can shift, you can influence, you're doing anything and everything that you can through your leaders, i.e. the nurses, right? By getting them to, do what they are there to do. So instead of the typical patient care, you're not telling them how to care. What you're telling them is okay, we need to get them to be healthier, right? Be in the system and get better or stay well. For us to do that, let's see how can we, in our ecosystem, right? How can we make it right for them or make it easy for them? And I think it's very inspiring, lah, because I think in services, forget about patient care, in a lot of services, what we hear is that we fit our customers into our process and system.
Yes.
That's what is and that's why we're losing the human touch, because
Exactly.
we as human beings are trying to behave like AI and say you follow my system is what's happening in the name of services, right? Whereas you're going the opposite way and saying, okay, let me see how can I make this work for you by giving voices in the right way, like especially in patient care. So thank you very very much for all that you've shared.
Most
And
welcome.
I think we can go on and have one another session, Ashok. I'm sure.
Definitely.
So with that, Dr. Vicky, is there anything else you'd like to leave the audience with in terms of giving voices and humanizing services?
Yeah, I think there's just one thing I want to leave every audience here. I think the word humanizing is very strong. Yeah, it's a very strong. I mean, I know it's a buzzword, but it's a very very strong word. If you really see the context of humanizing, it's literally getting close to what we have lost or what we have forgotten, right? With the fast-paced life that we are moving, with technology in hand and ease of everything that we have, technology will fail if we fail, especially in healthcare, right? Technology will fail if humans are not being able to relate to another on why that technology is there to help them. So everybody knows everything is in hand, but if they don't feel the human connection to say that the doctor cares about me, the nurse cares about me, and thus I need to care about myself to help myself, I have a tool. See, that's the whole algorithm that I see. So if this chain is broken, you can have the most fantastic tech in the world. You're not going to achieve exactly what you want to achieve. Yeah.
Nice,
That's
nice.
that's what I want to
Nice.
leave here with.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much. Well, technology is supposed to help us, and that's exactly how we're using it. And I think you have one fan who's come out to say, we nurses want to own, I think it's Putri Kasim Manja. Is that one of your nurses up north? No, not sure.
No.
Okay. Yeah. Also, it's fantastic. Here's a nurse who is very encouraged, by whatever you said. She says, we nurses want to own authority, but one of the challenges, disagreements between top management. Too many hits besides only one tail. Thanks, Dr. Vicky, for the motivation. Thank you, Kase. I hope I'm calling your name out right. Thank you so much for saying this, because I think this means a lot, to us.
Yeah, but Kase, just one thing I'll let you know. Never feel down because you don't have authority, because you got to understand a healthcare system can't work without the pillars, right? The doctors are the end point, but the nurses are always the pillars, right? You got to keep that in mind first. Now, I totally understand your challenge where there's too many hits, the management there. That's exactly what my nurses felt when I first joined the company, right? I can't comment on what happened on the past because I was not there. I don't know who was involved. But when this was put on to me, I said, I don't want to ride the same wagon. I need to change. They need to be more comfortable with me, to know that you have authority where you need, and if it goes beyond that, there's a struggle. That's where I step in to help, and that's how I see leadership as. So I totally feel you, Kase, but trust me, don't. You see, these people come and go. Top management changes, so just be hopeful. Probably you'll get someone really nice coming to understand what you guys go through.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Kase, and thank you, Dr. Vicky. And Sherry has come back to say we need the human in the loop. Totally agree with you.
Definitely.
Yes. So thank you very much, Dr. Vicky, for the passion. And I think you're in everything that you're saying. One thing is clear: you're connecting us back to our whys, and when we are connected to our whys, we know what's the best thing that we need to do and how we make a difference. So thank you, Vicky. And Ashok, before you, would you like
No,
to?
I'm blown away. Thank you very much, Dr. Vicky. Right?
Thank you very
It's
much.
been wonderful.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So as we say bye to Dr. Vicky, and Ashok is getting blown away, that was one heaven of a session, isn't it? I can't say
Wow.
hell.
I'm
Because-
blown over. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was fantastic. I loved it too.
Yeah.
All right, so
All right.
with that, I think we have taken extra 5 minutes, which was
Mhm.
worth it. Kasi, thank
Yes.
you very
Yes.
for all our friends, our audience who joined us: Sherry, Kasi, Gerald, and Vanan.
Mhm.
Did I miss anybody? I think I and Dr. Namala. Thank you for joining us as usual and encouraging us. We hope this was useful for you. And with that, this is Mallory signing off from Kuala Lumpur.
And
From
Ashok
me.
from Singapore.
All right. Till next week. Have a great time and stay
Have a
safe.
great one.
Stick
See
to
you
your
guys.
why,
Bye bye.
like what Dr. Vicknesh said. Okay.